Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder gives his final decision on his career. Also, we're going to talk about my thoughts on the fight that he had with Joseph Parker yesterday. Everybody know that Wilder is my favorite fighter, so I'm going to give y'all my take on that also. But before we do all of that, make sure that you hit my like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's cook. So yesterday, Wilder made his long-awaited ring return against Joseph Parker. And it didn't turn out like a lot of people thought it would turn out. A lot of people was expecting Wilder go in there and get the knockout. And a lot of people were very worried about Anthony Joshua. You know, it wasn't really so much Wilder that people was worried about. It was Anthony Joshua that everybody was worried about. But I told everybody, look, yes, Deontay Wilder is my favorite fighter, but I'm more worried about the Wilder fight than the Joshua fight. And everybody looked at me and thought I was a clown for saying that, right? I said I'm not really worried about Anthony Joshua because I know that Anthony Joshua is a better fighter than Otto Wilder. I also know that Anthony Joshua has been active. I know Deontay Wilder ain't been active. So I continue to tell people, look, man, I don't know about this Wilder fight. Wilder has only had less than one round ever since he fought Tyson Fury in 2021. I said, man, he's been too inactive. Inactivity kills your career. And so moving along, and we saw Wilder, man, he was gunshot. He wouldn't let his hands go. You know, it took him about maybe 8 or 9 rounds to really let his hands go and commit. But throughout those whole 12 rounds, you seen Wilder doing one thing. He wasn't working behind the jab. All he was doing was throwing wild, looping shots, looking for one shot, and that was the right hand. And I continued to see him over and over, not set up the shot, not work behind his jab and do other things like I've seen Wilder do throughout his whole career. The whole time, he was just winging one big shot. Joseph Parker let him know going into the fight, all we're doing is looking for the right hand and we're making sure that he don't land the right hand. So you would think that Deontay Wilder with his coach, Malik Scott, would be working on different things, okay? You're worried about the right hand, but we're going to come with some other shit to show you that we have more in our arsenal than just the right hand. But that didn't happen. It was the right hand. That's all he was throwing the whole night. And I started asking myself, because, see, I've watched Wilder throughout his whole career, and I started asking myself, is this the only thing that they was really working on, a game plan to land the right hand? Because I know watching Wilder when he was younger, coming up through the ranks, watching Wilder when he first became champion, and watching Wilder after he was champion, he had much more in his arsenal than the right hand. But at some point in Wilder's career, later on down the line, after he was champion for a while, you start seeing him put more and more emphasis in the right hand and leave the fundamentals that he had and the other weapons that he had in his arsenal. He was doing that less and less, right? And in his last few fights, that's all you've seen is just the right hand. Just him trying to connect with the right hand. And everybody's like, oh yeah, I told you that Wilder only has a right hand. That's all he's ever been able to do. Nah, that's false. Go back and watch the first Stavern fight. Go back and watch the Chris Arreola fight. And just go back and watch Wilder when he was younger. He had an arsenal. He had an offensive arsenal. It wasn't just the right hand. You know, yes, he was getting knockouts with the right hand a lot of times. It's because he was setting it up with his jab. He was, his movement was a lot more fluent. Even his defense was a lot better than it is now. That's one thing I've noticed is like, man, he don't have no defense at all. Like, instead of rolling with the punches and things of that nature, he just sticks his arm straight out and goes straight back. And, you know, he's easy to hit as long as you can get somewhat in range. And it's like, what is he working on? Because I know, right, back when he was with Mark Breland, he had a lot more in his arsenal. Now, like, yeah, Wilder is a lot older than he was, you know, back then. but it's still, like you just don't lose all of the fundamentals that you once had. And yeah, he wasn't the most fundamentally sound fighter ever, but he had a lot more than what he's shown in these past few fights. So with all of that being said, I said to myself, I want to hear what Malik Scott is telling Wilder in the corner. So they go to, I can't remember if it's the 8th or 9th round, right? And they finally beam in on Malik Scott. And I hear Malik Scott tell Wilder, hey, Deontay, look for the shot. You got to look for the shot, Deontay. You got to look for the shot and you got to land it. And I'm like, look for the shot? So you mean to tell me that's all y'all been working on in training camp for this past 4 or 5 weeks is landing one shot? And then JD stepped in and he actually gave Deontay Wilder instructions, right? He gave Wilder, he said, Wilder, you got to do this, you got to do that. I can't remember verbatim what he told him, but I remember saying like JD's is actually giving him instructions, right? Telling him how to set it up and telling him what to do. And Malik Scott is just telling him to look to land one shot. And I go back to when I hear Malik Scott do all these interviews. All Malik Scott is talking about is how powerful Deontay Wilder's right hand is. Yeah, he might be losing, but he's going to land the right hand. And when he lands that right hand. So, bruh, that's all you've been working on. So when I look at this situation, I blame Deontay Wilder's loss on several things, but I think the main thing is his inactivity, right? And this is the problem with a lot of PBC fighters, and I continue to tell people this. This why I don't D-ride promotional companies, right? I just ride with whatever promoter is giving us the best fight at that time. I'm not, I'm for PBC, all the way PBC or Top Rank or DAZN. I keep telling people, stop D-riding these promoters. I never liked how PBC set all their big name fighters on the shelf and they was only getting one fight or one fight every year and a half or one fight every year at the most. And Wilder, he's been too inactive. That's why he finally got fed up and he left. He left the PBC. You know what I'm talking about? And I've been telling people this for the longest time. You cannot be inactive that long and think that you're going to fight your best. We've seen it with Errol Spence. We've seen it with all of these big name fighters on the PBC when they come out and they just don't look like the same fighter. It's inactivity. So that's the one thing is Wilder has been too inactive. And I kept telling people that leading up to this fight. I said, man, he only thrown about 4 or 5 punches in the last 2.5 years. He's too inactive. And then he's stepping in the ring with somebody else that's active, that's been working, right? So that's the main thing to me. And another thing, right, that's a close second right behind it is Malik Scott being his trainer, man, because hearing him talk in interviews and hearing him in the corner, he only was worried about and focused on working on one thing, right? Well, 2 things. Movement, right? Because we seen Wilder come out with fluent movement and landing that one shot, and that was that big right hand. What are you going to do when you can't land the big right hand? So, it is what it is, man. I still rock with Wilder 1,000%, win, lose, or draw. He's had a great, tremendous career. He's overachieved, you know what I'm saying? And man, he was the longest reigning heavyweight champion for a long time, man. I think he held that strap for damn near 6 years. But Wilder has said that he is going to come back, right? He said, look, man, I couldn't find my timing. Once again, that's due to inactivity, right? And he says, hey, I take my hat off to Joseph Parker. It is what it is, and I'll be back, right? Also, one thing I do know that him and Anthony Joshua, they were signed up to fight already. Anthony Joshua said he's still a fight Wilder. So don't be surprised if Wilder want to come back and we see that Joshua fight next. But one thing is Wilder, if he's going to stay in the sport, right? Because I seen them ask him, does he still have the hunger and the love for the game like he once did? And Wilder pretty much said no, right? He says, I've been through a lot. I went to a retreat and I took Oscar or whatever. I can't even say it, so I ain't going to try to say it, right? And he just basically said he don't have that hunger no more. But if you're going to step back in the ring, man, you're going to have to have that same hunger that you did when you was up and coming, because it ain't no game, especially in the heavyweight division. And Wilder knows that, right? Also, he's going to have to work on the things that got him to the top, right? Not just landing the big right hand. So he's going to have to go back to the fundamentals, things that I did see him do when he was younger. And, you know, if he wants to continue on, I'm cool with it. But if he don't, I'm cool with that also, because he's done a lot in the sport. He's gave us tremendous fights, memorable nights, and man, he's going down in the Hall of Fame whether y'all like it or not. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and play y'all the video in case y'all haven't seen what Wilder had to say yet. And make sure that you hit my like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subbed, and y'all already know how I do. Diego talking that boxing again, and I'm gone.
What's up, baby? Hey, man, we came up short tonight. You know, I don't know what happened, to be honest. You know, my timing was off, and I didn't throw my punches. I didn't let my hands go like I supposed to. Sometimes it get like that, you know what I mean? But, you know, you live to see another fight. You live to see another moment. That's all that matters. Still full of happiness. I'm still full of joy. I'm still full of smiles. Sorry if I let anyone down. You know, but we'll be back, though. That's the good thing about it, you know. And, man, I can't wait to get on this PJ to go back to my babies. I'm going to see her. Today is one of my daughter's birthday. Daddy, love you so much, baby. I'll be home soon, though. But I thank you so much for the love and support that I've got in Riyadh and all my families, all my fans around the world. I thank you. I appreciate you so much. This is not the end. We'll be back. Love, peace, God bless.